my reviewing hat back. I've been missing it. All right. Felt naked there for a little while. So here's something interesting that I was thinking about, is that over the past, God, how many years have I been doing this? 5, 6? I don't even remember. And more than, I'm going to say over 400 different reviews. Maybe, I think I'm being generous, but I'm also including like Forgotten Gems, series to series, a lot of videos. I think that those who are repeat viewers, and if you are, thank you. It's so wonderful. I really appreciate you taking the time. But I think those of you who are repeat viewers have gotten a pretty good idea of my sensibilities, which is an interesting word, as we'll talk about here in a second. The things I like and the things that I don't, my preferences, my prejudices, that I am a huge fan of James Bond movies and the original Jurassic Park, that I don't enjoy modern comedies, that I'm not a horror movie fan, but I will check them out if I feel they have something interesting to offer. I just feel like over these years, I've had the opportunity to really let you know the things that I really love and the things that I don't. But there are a few things that I feel are still being discovered, and I mean, you might not know. For instance, I have a deep affection for these Jane Austen type movies. I really enjoy film adaptations of Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility. I think I get it from my mother. My mother had like 3 or 4 different versions of each, and we would watch them and kind of talk about the differences in portrayals and adaptation and concept and themes. So I really enjoy them. They're such, no matter which one you prefer or which telling is your favorite, they're such pretty movies. You know, there's such a lightness to them, which is so interesting when you consider that so often they're about like stuffy folks talking about, you know, tradition and, you know, the proper things, and he's going to marry that girl, but she has no dowry to speak of. You know, I love it. I love it. I love where they're filmed. I love the architecture. I love the environment. I love the characters. I just love it. So when I saw when I came across this one, scanning through it, and this one popped out, I was like, I kind of want to see that, and boy howdy am I glad that I did. Oh my goodness, what a fantastic couple hours I just had watching this movie. What an absolute treat this movie is. I don't want to just repeat the same things I said for Miss Harris Goes to Paris, but I feel like the same terms, delightful and enchanting and just, I don't know, rejuvenating. I don't want to bring this up, but for another movie I reviewed this year, I mentioned in the review that I had to keep stopping the film at home as I was watching it because it was infuriating me so much, and I was debating whether or not I was going to rage quit. Well, this time I kept pausing it because I kept going, I love this movie. I just had to stop for a minute and just kind of revel in how much I was loving this movie. And it's a movie that I'm almost hesitant to try to review because I don't know what else I can say about it. And the things I feel like I'm going to have to say, I almost feel like I shouldn't say, because the movie goes to great lengths not to say them, so you feel like you're doing the film a disservice by saying it. So I'm all over the place. But I'm so excited to share my experience of this movie with you, because I want people to see this movie. I want to get eyes on this movie. So let's first talk about what this is. So this is a very Jane Austen-inspired story, based on a novel which was self-published, which I think is important. It's always wonderful when these independent artists are able to get their work out there. So it takes place in 1818. You have these two friends, and Cecily and Julia, I believe the names are, and if I'm missing up the character names, I apologize. And they've been friends for a long time. Julia is obsessed with kind of making the perfect match, And Cecily is more of your Elizabeth from Pride and Prejudice type. You know, from a family that still gets to go to all the parties and everything, but isn't one of the rich people. So, in her attempts to make a perfect match, Julia goes out once with the most eligible bachelor in all of the land, the Mr. Malcolm of the title. The date does not go well, and Julia becomes the target of a slanderous caricature in the local paper, which totally obliterates her reputation. And she is furious about this, and her fury is only increased when, through her cousin, she finds out that the reason Mr. Malcolm spurned her and her advances is because he has, again, the list of the title of qualifications of potential wives, and the woman who courts him has to meet these qualifications or he will not marry her. He is attempting to avoid people who are just looking to marry him for his money. He wants someone who actually sparks his interest, and so to avoid the gold diggers, he's kind of come up with this list, and this list becomes, you know, kind of the talk of the town. Well, Julia, quite despondent over all of this, comes up with a plan. So she brings Cecily to London to basically woo Mr. Malcolm and meet all the qualifications of his list, so that when he does finally propose, she'll rip off the mask and go, ha ha, but I had a list that you did not meet, and now you know how it feels, ha 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 ha. And so that is the thrust of the story. It reminds me very much of an American Dad episode from many years back where Francine was mad at George Clooney, so Stan hatches a plan for George Clooney to fall in love with her so she can break his heart, and it very much resembles this setup. So first of all, it's a very fun story. It's again very Austen-esque. You can totally see this being the plot of a Jane Austen story. What's really wonderful about it is that, as we've seen, the problem with Austen stories is that when taken out of the very light-hearted and very, I don't want to say very period nature of them, but when taken a little too seriously, we can see that a lot of times what goes on in some of her stories is extremely cruel. Emma is not a nice person. You know, Emma is kind of a bitch, and we saw that with that updated version they did a few years back, just prior to the lockdown. So you've got to be very careful and make sure that the story and the characters are all light enough, and that the situation is entertaining enough that the scheme does not degenerate into cruelty for the audience. Now, for the characters, obviously, yes, they are taking it 100% seriously. The betrayals and the heartbreak is all very real. But for us, the audience, if it becomes too much, then we don't want anybody to end up with anyone else. And I think this film does a great job of that. This, again, I don't know another adjective. I need to invest in a thesaurus. And I'm a writer. That this film is just, it's delightful. It's light. It's just, again, rejuvenating. You feel uplifted watching it. And again, a lot of that is due in part to the excellent directing. And these types of films just can't help but look pretty. It's a very nice time fashion-wise for both men and women, except sometimes the men wear these overlarge top hats, which I just think I keep waiting for it to like fall down over their faces. But it's still an incredibly gorgeous time. It's filmed in Ireland, one of the most beautiful places on earth. You know, just so much open space and so much green. So it's a very pretty, light, wonderful picture. But I think what really drives this home are the performances. This is a film that, again, I'm trying not to compare it to certain other films I've reviewed. But I made a comment in a previous review about a group of actors who did not have a lot of name recognition, who were probably mostly theater people, and trying to work on the big screen for the first time or close to the first time and not quite sticking the landing. That's not the case here. These are some brilliant actors, all of them virtually unknowns. There's no one in this film whose name I recognize. Not one. So this is, and as I'm looking through their IMDb and doing a little research on them prior to coming out here, yeah, a lot of them are stage actors. And, one of them, Zawe Ashton, who plays Julia, is actually a very accomplished playwright in her own right. So these are folks who either have not done a lot or and are I don't think they're bothered by that. What I see when I look at this cast, and this is true of another film I reviewed, even though the other film is much more inferior than this one. In both cases, you can tell that the actors are truly enjoying this work. And these actors are just digging it. And you can tell they are having so much fun. And I think part of that, and I'm going to have to bring this up, I think part of that is because the cast is made up of actors who traditionally would not be playing characters of this nature, of this time period, or of this style of film. One of the gimmicks, it's not a gimmick, that is a terrible word, and I'm so sorry I said that, but one of the creative choices of this film is that, from what I can tell, it is completely colorblind casting. Meaning that the cast is multiracial. Mr. Malcolm of the title, and I'm gonna butcher these names, and I'm so sorry to all the actors involved. I mean no disrespect. I really tried. I looked up the pronunciation, so if I mispronounce your name, please know I mean no disrespect. But Sope Dirisu plays Mr. Malcolm. He's black. Freida Pinto is Indian, and she plays Simone. The aforementioned Zawe Ashton is British and Ugandan. Oliver Jackson Cohen is white. Mandy Park, I believe is the actor's name, is of Asian descent. I did not look up specifically which one, so I apologize. But it is a completely colorblind, multiracial cast. And from what I can tell, I was looking up to see if that's how it's written in the book. I don't think it is. If it is, if someone has read the book and can tell me for sure, please do. But I don't believe that is how the book is written. I think this was a choice by the director to go this route. And I think it's a brilliant, brilliant choice. On multiple levels. Like I say, in the film proper, it's a brilliant choice because you can tell these actors are loving the fact that, again, these are not characters they would traditionally be cast as. And the thesis film of the whole statement, directorially, seems to be, what are you so afraid of? I think that's one of the overriding themes of the film, that Mr. Malcolm puts this shield over himself. He has this list because he's afraid of being hurt. I think all the characters are carrying around some kind of fear. And I think that from the director's point of view, the casting of this in such a way is say, what are you so afraid of with multiracial casting? What are you so afraid of with black and white, or not black and white, I'm so sorry. What are you so afraid of with, with having all of these different ethnicities represented on screen? What the fuck is your problem? Get over it. Look how good it is. Look how good these actors are. Don't pay attention to their race. Pay attention to them as performers. And wouldn't a lot of movies be suddenly rejuvenated? I mean, we've seen this recently, a bit more stylized, but we've seen this recently with the Kenneth Branagh Perot films. The updated casting and changing characters' ethnicities, and how much life that breathes into it, and what a new and exciting take that is. And people love those movies. And I think that is one of the big things about this movie, is that it is so different than any other film of its type. And in a way, I almost feel bad bringing it up, because again, the film doesn't. The film never shines a light on this. It never makes it like, look, he's black. She's Indian. They never do that. There's like one or two little winks to the audience every now and then. There's one line fairly early on where Julia, played by Zawe Ashton, makes some reference to not liking foreigners, and Oliver Jackson Cohen and Freida Pinto just kind of look and go, really? So that's kind of a little wink to the audience. But other than small little details like that, the ethnicity of the cast is never addressed. It's just there. It's just like, yeah, look, these are great actors playing fun characters, and fucking deal with it. And I think that's something that we need to really stress. This is not a great film just because of the casting, all right? Or I should say, because of the fact that you cast colorblind. It is a good film because of the casting, because the actors are fucking great. But I think it's also a great film because the characters are really good. And I love how they use the Austen kind of world and the story structure as a blueprint, but the characters are very subtly changed from those archetypes. For instance, when Cecily is told of this plan, she never really goes along with it. Like, she never really says, okay, I'll do this. Like, she's kind of like, okay, if that's a thing, then sure. And then when she meets Mr. Malcolm, because when they first meet, they don't know who each other are. Like, she doesn't know that that's the man she's sent here to do, play this little trick on. She meets him as himself first, and is like, and she's constantly saying, he's not a bad guy. He's not a monster. I'm not doing this. And she keeps telling her friend, like, I'm not doing this just to dump him, okay? You need to be okay with that. Another great character is Mr. Malcolm's mother. They have the traditional party at the end of the film, kind of like in a high school movie where everything culminates at the prom. That in these kind of movies, there's always some ball where things come out. And we meet his mother, and at first you think she's going to be one of these, Judi Dench, Maggie Smith, in these type of movies, cruel, cold-hearted bitches who tell the poor girl, go get lost, you're not good enough for my son. And she's not that in the slightest. Like, she's a little uppity, and she kind of looks a little like, but you can tell she's a very nice woman. She likes Cecily. She thinks she's good for her son. It's the subtle subversions of these Austen archetypes that give the whole enterprise a feeling of freshness and newness. Pardon me, I know that was beautiful. And I think that is one of the secrets of this movie, is it's very, I keep coming back to the term revitalized or re-energized, and that's what I really feel watching this movie, not just as an audience member, but this genre. It feels like this is a fresh take on it, from the storyline to the characters to the casting. And I'm all for it. I have always been an advocate of colorblind casting. And especially in movies like this, it's like, if they're a good actor, what the fuck does it matter? And this movie just proves that point. So I know I'm harping on that a lot, and I feel bad because this movie is so much more than just that one aspect. It's a movie that I'm honestly having a very hard time coming up with criticism for. Coming up with any kind of something that I felt the film did bad or didn't work as well or anything like that. I really think it's a fantastic film. I was never bored by it. I never felt the pacing lagged. I felt the actors worked brilliantly in their characters and together. Again, theater people forming an ensemble. Like, these characters and actors worked so well with each other. The characters are delightful. The situation is fun. The costuming, the staging, the art, the locations, all beautiful. I can't think of anything really to say, well, on the other hand, about this movie. I just can't. And I know that if I give it some thought, I probably will, but I don't want to come down from this high. I don't get to be this excited about movies that often. So yeah, this is a film that I'm so excited to talk about. I want you to be excited to seek this movie out. You can find it on YouTube. You can buy it for physical copies. They're out there. I'm sure it'll be available on some streaming service or another soon. And when it does, I urge you, check this out. This is a film of people, made by people that I want to see more from. Everybody involved in this film, from the director to all the actors, I want to see more. I want these people in more movies. So please support this movie. Find it and watch it, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed. So, all right, I feel like I've gushed. I don't feel I've done great criticism here, but sometimes a movie just gets you so excited, it's hard. It goes the other way. Sometimes a movie gets you so pissed off, it's hard. But this time, I'm just over the moon at having watched this movie, and I can't wait to watch it again. Let me tell you, I watched this movie. I came out here to do the review, and I was sitting in the parking lot, thumbing through my phone, doing a little bit of background research before I started, and it said it was available on video already. I went, what? I went to Amazon. There it was. Ordered it right away, straight up. I'm like, I want this. I want it now. Boom. So there you go. That's high praise from me. All right, let's wrap this up. I don't think I need to get too much into it. But final grade for Mr. Malcolm's list, it's an A+. It is an A+ for me. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie, and I know I said this about Miss Harris Goes to Paris, and right now it's pretty close battle, I gotta say. I'm gonna have to watch both movies again and before I make a final decision, and of course we still have several months left, but this movie's a contender. It's a contender for that top spot. I'm telling you right now. I liked it that much. So please go see this movie. Find this movie and watch it. I don't think you'll be disappointed. All right, so that's enough for me. That's enough of me gushing. I don't know which is more nauseating, me when I'm gushing over a film or me when I'm ranting about a film, but either way, there you go. So thanks a lot for coming along. Why are you still watching this? Go find this movie and watch it. And when you come back, and when we come back, that's a terrible segue. I don't know where I was going with that. Shut up, Brandon. Drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.